and welcome to another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing random interviews I'm going to be doing over the next couple of months with seniors who are living on very modest Social Security checks, but are living very rich and fulfilled lives. They are doing a number of different things, including sharing housing, maybe downsizing to a tiny house, even living in a van or in an RV. But they're going to share some of the things that they do, including maybe even working well past retirement age of 65. But you're going to see how they're doing it, and hopefully this will give you some ideas and tips on some things you can do if you have a small Social Security check each month and that's your only income, but you still want to live a rich and full and blessed life. So come on, let's listen to Lizzie, who is today's guest. Hello, Lizzie.
Hi.
How's it going today?
Going great.
It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
It is. We get many of them here.
We do in Southern California. So can you share with my viewers how old you are?
66.
66. And you are still working?
Part-time.
But you have started collecting your Social Security?
Yes. I started collecting Social Security when I was 62.
Okay, and what brought you to that decision?
COVID.
Oh, okay.
I was going on unemployment when the shutdown came, and I went on Social Security at the same time, and that's how I managed during the lockdown.
Okay.
And then I realized that I was really not desirous of going back to work full-time if I didn't have to, and my roommate and I decided to move out of Los Angeles and down here to Oceanside.
Okay, well, let's back up just a bit. You were telling me that you were married for a number of years.
Yes, 15 years.
And your plan was your ex-husband and his family had properties that you helped manage for many years.
Correct.
And that was kind of what you thought would be your...
That was our retirement. It was what we expected. He was an only child, and we worked with them on their properties for a number of years. But his father died, and then my husband became ill with a mental health issue, a fairly serious one.
Okay.
And that ended up eventually being the thing that broke the marriage.
But you were sharing with me that you did work through that for almost a decade trying to...
Oh yeah, we did. We tried hard to keep it going after he was diagnosed for years. But after a certain number of episodes and breakthrough mania and depression and difficulties of all kinds, even though we fought it hard together, we eventually just didn't have enough of a bond left to stay married. But we did everything we could to help each other through the divorce process.
And you still are friendly towards each other?
We are. We still talk on the phone and keep up with each other, and we don't have any bitterness or animosity.
But you didn't request, you were saying, any alimony or anything like that?
No, I had been self-supporting before we married, and we didn't have any kids. So I went back to being self-supporting afterwards.
So your whole plan for retirement...
Shot to hell.
Yeah. And you know, the biggest predictor of poverty for women is the loss of a spouse or a divorce.
Yes, that's true.
So now, but you came up, you rebounded. You were in D.C., you were telling me when that happened.
Correct. Actually, I met my husband in D.C., around that area. We lived there for a few years, and then we moved to Delaware to help out his parents with their properties. And we were still living in Delaware when we divorced.
Okay.
And as soon as that happened, I moved back to D.C. and I got a job at a prestigious boutique law firm. I was a legal secretary at the time, and stayed with them for 4 years. They had a very good benefits program, and they paid me the highest salary I had been able to make up to that point in my life.
Okay.
So yeah, I was with them for 4 years, and that gave me enough to start on my having any retirement.
And then you were telling me, so now you came back to California.
I did.
Or you came to California.
I came back to California. I'm originally from Los Angeles.
All right. And so share with me how, because when you came back, were you working or did you go on to Social Security?
No, I was working. I moved back at 57 and was working full-time at law offices, and I was living, I thought temporarily, with the younger sister of a very long-term close friend of mine.
Since your teenage years, you were saying.
Yes. And so I was living with her sister. I thought it would be just a few months until I got a job in my own place, but that's not how things turned out. I was very compatible with her sister, and it was far more inexpensive for she and I to continue living together than to get my own place. And she lived just a mile away from my friend and her sister, who we saw all the time. So it was such a great situation. There was no reason to leave. She didn't want me to leave. I didn't want to go.
And you were saying that you've lived now with the roommate situation for almost a decade.
Yes, it'll be this September, a couple months, it'll be 9 years that she and I have been living together.
Now, you said something that I thought was very profound about aging not being something to do alone.
Oh, yeah. I was said that my friend and I were talking about this just the other day, how you really need support. You need a deep bench when you're getting older, and we reflected on the fact that we had needed that when we were young together too, because we were out of the house early. We had difficult homes and we both left them early, and we really relied on each other and our social group at that time to get along. And the same is true, and that was a big life transition from being a kid to being an adult. And now we're at the opposite end, and not wanting to work full-time and having made our contribution to society by and large, and wanting to keep what time we have left for ourselves as much as we can afford to. And once again, it's having close friends and family that makes it easier to do that.
One other thing that you shared with me, Lizzie, that I thought was really a wise move, you said you always chosen where you would live in terms of your location based on what?
On who I was emotionally closest to at the time. Like, I had to choose which parent I was going to live with at one point as a kid, and even though my mother campaigned hard, I chose my father. And I chose to leave home only a month after I turned 16 because I wanted to be with my friends, and my father was moving. And I chose to move to the East Coast because a boy I loved at the time was going to college there and talked me into going with him. And I stayed there because I made a great group of friends and eventually met my husband there. So of course I lived with him. And then after I divorced, I did stay in DC for a while, but my close friends there began to move away. And when I realized I was alone there, I knew it was time to come home to California and be close to, both my parents were still alive. And so I wanted to move closer to be with them. And I still, after all those years, had friends in Los Angeles, like my roommate's older sister and her. And I knew that they would be happy to have me back.
So you really made a conscious effort to choose where to live, where you had a support group.
The best, the strongest emotional ties I had at that point in my life are always what I have used to decide where I will be geographically.
I think that's really wise. So you have people who you have a bond with, who you have a connection with, who are a source of support.
Yeah.
And as you said, as we get older, that becomes more and more important.
Especially if you can find someone you can stand to live with. And that can be difficult. Even if you do love people, they're not always easy to, you're not always super compatible for living together. Erica and I really were just very, very fortunate because we are naturally compatible. We don't have to work at it super hard. And that has made all the difference.
So you were sharing with me that your rent, I'm not going to say what your rent is, but it's a fraction of what you would pay if you had a one-bedroom here in Southern California.
Less than half.
And your Social Security, from what you shared with me,
Right.
covers your rent and your utilities, but it's not enough to pay for your other expenses, insurance, phone, food.
Right.
So you are working to pay for those right now.
Yes, I do have retirement income because of the law firm I worked for.
When you say income, it's not money coming in, but
No,
it's money. But it's
no.
money you've put aside.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's correct. I misspoke. It's money put aside that I have not yet touched, and I'm hoping not to touch it and to continue to let it grow, hopefully,
Yeah.
until I'm closer to 70, at which point I will stop working even part-time and use that money to supplement my Social Security until such time as that is gone. And whether or not I will outlive that, nobody knows. But
Right.
if I do, I will be forced to throw myself on social services. But I hope and I expect to still have some people around in my life, whether it's family or friends, that I can team up with against the demands of American
So you.
cost of living.
So basically, you would be in a pretty tight situation if you didn't have the living situation where you're
Oh,
sharing.
absolutely, absolutely. I was very, very fortunate to find myself in this roommate situation, and with someone who had the means to, who already owned her own house and sold it in LA and bought another one when we moved down here. So that was, yeah, that was a great stroke of luck.
So basically, she's helping you because your rent is substantially lower, and you're helping her by helping pay for part of the mortgage.
Exactly.
So it's
and
really
half of the utilities as well. Yeah.
So it's really a win-win
Oh,
situation.
it definitely is, and it's so much more than that. We're very close friends. It's a very beneficial relationship in many ways besides financial, but certainly financial is an important one.
You were also saying you do a lot of things together. You go out
We do.
to you're very good, from what you were telling me, at finding free fun stuff.
We're sitting right now at the senior center, and she and I come here every week to play ping pong. It's free.
Okay.
And it's super fun and makes us feel like we're 12 years old again.
Now, you did say that had you not had this situation, you might have considered van life.
Oh, I thought about van life for years and years. As a matter of fact, when I was married, my husband and I thought we might want to choose that lifestyle then.
Okay.
And we really read a lot about it and talked a lot about it, but because of one reason or another, it never happened for us. But I thought for a long time that would be something I would enjoy, and I still think if anything were to happen and I were to lose Erica, that I might try living that life for a year or two if I felt physically capable of doing it.
Right.
Of course, if it happened, 5 years from now, I probably wouldn't. Well, who knows? Who knows what condition I'll be in?
But you are an example of someone who has found an alternative, and that is co-sharing of a house.
Absolutely.
And I think, honestly, I don't know why more and more people don't do that. It seems like it would be such a good option if you can find the right person.
That's the thing. I do think there ought to be a service like there are for people who want to date. I think there should be one like that for roommates, to look for them who are psychologically and hopefully maybe financially too compatible. Because that would be an enormous service, not just for seniors, but for young people starting out too.
Well, maybe you could start one like that.
I'll have to talk to my venture capitalists.
Well, there's certainly a need.
Yes,
There's certainly a need, and
there most certainly is.
that's where businesses tend to succeed, where there's a need that's not being filled that someone fills.
That's true. That's a good point.
But, well, Lizzie, thank you so much, and maybe we'll check back in a couple of years and see how things are going. But I think you are a fabulous example of how to live within limited means by finding an alternative that actually worked out to be brilliant for you.
It really did. I've been very fortunate. Thank you so much, Carol.
All right, and I'll see you down the road.
See you down the road.
Bye-bye.